Today is one of those days that you're not quite sure is real or actually happening, because that is a Porsche 959, one of, in the grand scheme of things, not that many made, and I've got the key. The 959 story begins all the way back in 1982 when Helmut Bott approached Porsche's MD about the 911. He had some ideas and thought they needed to go on it, well, on a new one at least. Bott wanted to build a sports car Porsche could rely on in future, so thought all-wheel drive would be the way to go. Knowing that motorsport helped development along somewhat, he approached top brass and suggested they enter the then very popular Group B. The right people said yes, and he got to work making his four-wheel drive mule into a racing car. The car's engine wasn't to be all new, but one lifted from the 935 Racer. It was a 2.85-litre twin-turbo flat-six with 444 brake horsepower. The turbos were in sequence rather than parallel, meaning that turbo lag was, in theory, a thing of the past. Its body was a mix of aluminium and Kevlar, so the weight stayed as low as possible, though it still tips the scales at nearly 1.5 tons. Its aero was made to ensure there was no lift, and the street car got a variable ride height to help keep the car as stable as possible. Race car engine aside, the 959 prototype had something pretty special: four-wheel drive. PSK, or Porsche Steuerkupplung, shuffled the power around the car's wheels as and when it was needed. It could have up to 80% pushed to the rear. Now, I know that may sound a bit old hat now, you can get it on a small family car, but back in its day, it was quite something. The Group B concept appeared in 1983, wowing the crowds at the Frankfurt Motor Show. In 1985, the full production car was unveiled, with a release promised for 1986. At the time, it was the fastest production car on the planet, putting in a top speed of 195 miles an hour, though sport models could hack 197. 0 to 62 was apparently dispatched in 3.7 seconds. In all, there were two versions on offer, the Comfort and the Sport. The Comfort had things in it, things like aircon and anything electrical, while the Sport lost pretty much all of that and 100 kilos. It was supposed to be a featherweight killer, just as Porsche's early Le Mans cars had been. The performance is simply staggering still. Hook it up from second to third and it just goes. It kicks you down the road, angrily, shoutily, making an incredible noise. Of course, it's got that engine, and oh my, what an engine it is. Now, I want to talk about the two-stage turbos, because the idea behind it was the little turbo would get it all going nice and quickly, then the big turbo would carry it on, so you get just one big wave of torque. Now, what actually happens is you start off going very quickly, then the big turbo happens, and ooh, it's fast. It just picks up speed instantly. You're gone, bang. That's something I'm not really used to. I don't think anyone's used to anymore, because now turbo technology has moved on, but this is one of the blueprints of how to get cars shifting mentally fast. The clutch is incredibly heavy, as is the gearbox. It's very, very mechanical. You do have to force it into each ratio. You have to work for your supper. And while some may view that as quite bad, it's of its age, and frankly, it works staggeringly well. It feels really good. You feel incredibly involved and engaged with the car. The brakes, again, very, very heavy. Very little assistance, as you'd expect from a car of this particular era. But in the same breath, you do get lots of lovely, lovely feedback. You know exactly what's going on, a lot of feel through the pedal. The steering is delightfully weighty, something you don't get much anymore, and the feedback you get through it is, well, it's awesome. It really, really is good. You can feel everything through your fingertips properly. And this car is pretty much mint. Everything on it has been lovingly restored and looked after by the guys at the Porsche Museum. This car is a museum piece. And looking down at the odometer, well, it's done a little over 4,600 kilometers. That's not much. And I've put about 100 of those on. So I've left my mark on the car. That's good. While Group B was ideal to start with, its shift towards rallying put Porsche off it somewhat. Rather than compete, Porsche got on with making the best road car it could. Until 1984, that is, when Jackie Ickx prodded Porsche hard enough to enter 3 911s modified to 959 spec in the Paris-Dakar, which it won. Full rally spec 959s entered in 85, and in 86, 959s finished first and second. Not bad. A road racer variant, the 961, appeared as well. It even entered Le Mans in 1986, scoring a class victory and 7th place overall. This car's legacy, as well as being a poster car for people all over the world, and it still is today, as well as its incredible performance and as well as its victories and stunning efforts on the world's race stages and rally stages, is the fact that it proved that you could have a 911 with four-wheel drive in it. Admittedly, the PSK system was simplified for the first Carrera 4 and then completely switched out for the one after that, because while it was brilliant, it was very expensive and very, very complicated. It showed that you could still have fun in a 911 with all four wheels driven. It's a beautiful piece of engineering and a stunning piece of design. And a testament to that is the fact that several times today, people stop just to have a chat, to have a look at it. It's just got people, and they love it for it. And I don't blame them. On our travels, a chap accosted us and wanted to have a look because he knew exactly what he was looking at. And he told us that his dad used to work at the factory around the time 959 was being developed. And apparently his father, on the day he went to buy his wedding rings, took a 959. And he doesn't remember that day because he went to buy the ring he was going to slip on to his everlasting love's finger. No, he remembers that day because he was driving a 959. Fair play, but don't tell your wife. The power this car has over people, it is the highlight of people's days, the highlight of their years. Hell, for some people it'd be the highlight of their lives. I'm never going to forget the time I spent with this car. I'm so incredibly lucky to have done it. For me, the 959 was always a special car. I loved it to bits when I was a kid. I remember seeing it just as countless other people did and falling in love with it. At the time I wasn't really a fan of the 911, but hell, the 959, it just did it for me. It just did it for me. It got me in a way that very few other cars did.
This car is part of a set that summed up 80s excess. It was the fastest, the greatest, the ultimate Porsche. It used to go toe-to-toe with Ferrari F40s, Jaguar XJ220s and the like. It set the paradigm for the supercar renaissance. It's one of the world's true greats, and an innovative one at that. The 959 versus Ferrari F40 schoolyard battles were a precursor to those that happened once again in the noughties and are happening right now with the 918 Spider, McLaren P1 and Ferrari LaFerrari. Each time there is a big supercar renaissance, Porsche's always there throwing its high-powered hat in the ring. The 959 was its first big go, and what a way to do it.
It's been a genuine pleasure to be able to drive the 959, even for the briefest of moments, because it's very much of its era. It's very fast, and consequences, well, who gives a damn about them? Nowadays, yeah, manufacturers are making very fast cars, but they also have something else in mind: efficiency. And while that's all well and good, I'm not knocking that. Every now and then, don't you just wish manufacturers would throw out all the eco bits and make something as big, as fast, and as silly as possible? I know I do.